initially started out by writing my TED Talk on a piece of paper with a pen. And I felt really satisfied because I managed to write it in pen without any mistakes. And then I was told that a typed copy of the speech was required to be shared through Google Docs. Even though I wasn't really happy with it, I had no reason to object because it's not unusual for us to turn in assignments through Google Docs. However, had I not handwritten my notes beforehand, I'm sure that they would have been a jumbled up mess in my brain. In fact, even at home, I have these random pieces of paper, not even full sizes of pieces of paper, but just scraps, with random notes that I had throughout that day. These handwritten notes are what are taken for granted for nowadays. Yes, I could have just taken out my phone or accessed the computer to write down all these notes. But instead, I chose to handwrite it. I chose to write it in this complicated of sequences, this complicated of scribbles and squiggles, which to some people, it might be known as what doctors write in, but to others and myself, it is cursive. Cursive has lost its popularity, given its exclusion from Common Core. But not only that, cursive has lost its relevance because of how we teach students to write print first, which print is the practice of lifting the pen after each letter. Currently, according to US World News and Report, there are only 14 states that require proficiency in cursive, despite its exclusion in Common Core. Now, because cursive is already dying, some people say that we should just let it die. Why do we teach students two ways to write that communicate and translate the same thing? Why handwrite when typing produces a much faster result? Cursive is a thing of the past. Sure, our founding fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence in this fancy script, but we can easily skip the challenge of discerning these complicated strokes by going online and searching on Google the Declaration of Independence, and you're sure to find a typeface copy of the document. Cursive comes off as a novelty rather than a necessity. It's like an old artifact, like a Renaissance painting that people gave up to interpret or who have given up on finding its true meaning. But there is a necessity to some degree. We just don't see it. Our reality in school requires us to focus on test prep and academics, to focus on academics and test prep. Some of the most intimidating tests, like the SAT and AP exams, are mainly handwritten. While there is no punishment for having bad handwriting on these exams, except for the fact if the grader has a hard time reading it, they'll just have a bad time, the benefits of having proper handwriting are plentiful. Using cursive will not only help write faster, but will improve the quality of composition, as Cursive Logic puts it. Not only that, but cursive in notes strengthens learning efficacy. To test this effectiveness, a study by Mueller and Oppenheimer, researchers at UCLA and Princeton, examined students who took notes on a variety of different lectures. Of those students, those who handwrote, those who typed, generally produced more content, which is not a surprise because typing is fast. But when it came to the test, it revealed that they had a poor retention of knowledge. To delve in deeper, when the students were examined on the test, when they were examined whether they were posed with a purely content-based question, where they had to recall specific dates and specific facts, both groups, handwriters and typers, did relatively the same. But when posed with a conceptual-based question, such as, how do Japan and Sweden differ in their approaches to equality in their societies? The typers did significantly worse. Now you might be asking, what is the reason for this? Well, the reason is because handwriters are aware that they do not write as fast as the lecturer speaks. So then they become more selective of the content that they write down. They engage in what Mueller and Oppenheimer referred to as generative note-taking, which involves summarizing, paraphrasing, and content mapping. Now, but that leads into another debate. Another one of Cursive's rivals is standard print writing, which is the normal handwriting that many of you most likely write in. They both use the same alphabet, and they pretty much form sentences in the same way. But it lies within creating each individual letter and how we connect those letters that really matters. Cursive is more demanding in its actions. It requires fluid motion, continuity, going back to curve and loop the letters, which all of these specific motions enforce kinesthetic feedback, as discovered by George early in his journal, Academic Therapy, which this basically means that when we handwrite in cursive, we develop a better retention and memory of the content that we wrote down. But even if people may not believe in these specific benefits and improvements that cursive has, this does not fully diminish its importance. Yes, some of you still may see comfort in typing lots of paragraphs on your computers and feel more comfortable with your keyboards. And some people may not write as fast as others, and that's completely okay. Some people might not even write as fast when they write in cursive, and that's still completely okay. But there's one thing that statistics and research cannot measure, that cursive necessity cannot be measured by research and statistical data and graphs. There's a psychological aspect to it, which is that it facilitates this motivation to learn. It becomes so hard to continually keep up with this constant work ethic when we're in school and trying to maintain our grades and trying to keep up with school. But when we use cursive, it invokes these levels of joy. This is because cursive is beautiful, it is elegant, and it enables us to have freedom of expression in a world that calls for rigor and rigid rules and formulaic subjects. Cursive is a motivator. It is an art without an image. It is the fragments of tradition from centuries and centuries past. The utter thought of being interconnected with these feelings of nostalgia from eras that we've never lived in before is enough to motivate me to preserve the writing system throughout my schoolwork. We focus so much on getting our good grades. We focus so much on seeing what is necessary to achieve success in school. But what we fail to do is look closely at the quality of each student's experience. Writing makes up a lot of that experience, whether we realize it or not. And having good handwriting and writing in cursive will cultivate inspiration from within. Even Steve Jobs studied the art of calligraphy in his college years, and he even said that it was beautifully, historically, and artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture. So far, technology has not taken over, and cursive is still the most accessible and widely used. So why don't we let students be more free and creative with it? Why don't we teach students how to be comfortable with their individuality? Our signatures are our seals of individuality. Our handwriting distinguishes a student from another. We are not automatons. We are not robots. We're all different and we're all human. Certainly, had I not handwritten my speech beforehand, I would not have memories of the impact that cursive had on me, and how seeing it on its way out has made me realize how truly valuable it is. I myself have taken advantage of cursive and its beauty through my schoolwork, and I'll show you an example. I like to write my notes in this fancy script because it motivates me and gives me a reason to keep studying and continue my work. But I'm positive that years after this TED Talk, I will have vivid memories of each stroke that I used to create every word and every feeling of this experience. Thank you.